Dear students, in the last class we have studied about snagging and snagging due to snagging test is completed with the help of maze test. Snagging testing is explained with the help of maze tester and bean bag test. Bean bag test is nowadays outdated because the information is not available it on about it on the internet, which means it is outdated. And mace test is available. Mace is a spiked ball. Mace is a spiked ball. So what are spikes? I will. So spikes are the small ముళ్ళులు. సో ముళ్ళులు అంటే ఇనుప అన్నమాట. సో spikes shoes are useful for running and jogging, which grip the earth while jogging and running. So spikes, mace is a spiked ball. I have shown you what a mace test is and what a spiked ball is in the last video, and now I'll talk about fabric stretch properties. There are two categories of stretch fabrics based on degree of stretchability: power or action stretch and comfort stretch. Power or action stretch, as the name implies, provides a fabric with a high degree of extensibility and quick recovery. Power or action stretch, as the name implies, provides a fabric with a high degree of extensibility and quick recovery. The stretch factor generally ranges from at least 30 to 50% or more, with no more than 5 to 6% loss in recovery. Such stretch fabrics are at best adapted to sky wear, swimwear, athletic clothing, and professional sports wear. Comfort stretch applies to fabrics with less than 30% stretch factor and no more than 2 to 5% loss in recovery. Such fabrics are used for everyday clothing that needs only a moderate degree of elasticity. So comfort stretch applies to fabrics with less than 30% stretch factor and no more than 2 to 5% loss in recovery. So comfort fabrics have only 30% stretch factor, and such fabrics are used for everyday clothing that needs only a moderate degree of elasticity. This category covers a wide range of end uses in both apparel and home, as well as in transportation upholstery such as automobile, bus, train, and aircraft seat covers. With stretch fabric, comfort is achieved by reducing garment restraint imposed on the body through increased fabric give. This also means that the garments can be cut more neatly and will conform better to the body. No standard exists for the level of stretch required in various garments. However, there are some data available on this subject. Kirk and Ibrahim 1966 conducted an experiment to establish the preferred stretch level and direction from a comfort viewpoint and to determine the sensitivity of the consumer to stretch level. They reached the following conclusions. The experiment confirmed the general view that outerwear garments that offer the least resistance to body movements are the most comfortable. Wearers' preference for stretch were established at a 25 to 45% stretch range depending on the end use. Wearers' preferences for stretch were established at a 25 to 45% stretch range depending on the end use. For women's horizontal stretch slacks, a 35% stretch level effectively satisfies the comfort requirements for this type of garments. So this is about stretch fabrics, and now so power stretch or action stretch is one thing and comfort stretch is one thing. Power stretch means high degree of extensibility and quick recovery, whereas comfort stretch percentage is not that much extensible like comfort power stretch, but 30% stretch, and recovery is 2 to 5% only. So this is about fabric stretch properties, and we have to test the fabric tests. And now I will tell you about the test method. The stretch properties of fabrics other than elastic are measured, tested by the following three methods. D2594 standard test method for stretch properties of knitted fabrics having low power, annual book of ASTM standards volume 0.7.1. The above test method specifies test conditions for measuring growth and stretch of knitted fabrics intended for use in swimwear, anchored slacks, and other form-fitting apparel, also commonly known as semi-support apparel, as well as for measuring growth of knitted fabrics intended for use in sportswear and other loose-fitting apparel, also commonly known as comfort stretch apparel. To test fabric growth, a specimen of known length is extended to a stretch of specified percent and held at this stretch for a prescribed duration of time. The specimen is then allowed to recover under zero load. During the recovery period, the length of the specimen is measured at the end of various time intervals. The amount of growth at each time interval during recovery is calculated from the length of the specimen at the end of the time interval and the length of the specimen prior to stretching. Fabric growth is an increase in length or width of fabric due to stretch in repeated use. When a knitted fabric does not come back to its original length or width from its stretched state, it is called fabric growth. A knitted garment should not grow due to repeated use because then it would not retain its original shape and won't drape that nicely when worn and ultimately may present an unacceptable appearance. So fabric growth is a fabric is extended and it will not recover to its original shape. Then that means that word is coined as fabric growth. So don't compare it with growth of the trees or growth of a person in a company. So here fabric growth means a fabric is extended from 10 centimeters to 12 centimeters, for example, and it will remain at 12 centimeters. So that is known as fabric growth. It will not recover at all. It will not recover at all. Then that is known as that is known as what is that is known as fabric growth. Okay. This is a new term I learned also, because generally we hear about trees growing and ఏమ్రా నీ కంపెనీలో గ్రోత్ ఉంటుందారా అని అంటారు. సో సంథింగ్ లైక్ దట్. సో now I am first time hearing fabric growth. So that is there in the knitted fabrics. So that is enough. D3107 standard test method for stretch properties of fabrics woven from stretch yarns. This test method is used to determine the amount of fabric stretch, fabric growth and fabric recovery of fabrics woven in whole or in part from stretch yarns after a specified period of tension and extension. Fabric stretch and immediate growth are tested by applying a specified load. Fabric stretch and immediate growth are tested by applying a specified load to a fabric specimen of known length by a prescribed cycling techniques, and the resulting length is measured. The load is then removed from the specimen and the length is measured again after recovery for a specified time interval. The amount of fabric stretch is calculated from the difference in length of the specimen prior to loading and when under load. The immediate fabric growth after cycling is calculated from the difference in length of the specimen prior to loading and after short term recovery 30 seconds. For testing fabric growth after stretching to a specified extension, a specimen paired to the one used in the stretch test is held at a specified extension for the prescribed period of time. The restraining force is then removed from the specimen and the length measured after the specimen has been allowed to recover for various time periods. The amount of fabric growth at each time interval is calculated from the length of the specimen prior to stretching and the length after each recovery period. D2594, D3107. Both the tests look similar. This method is intended for use with woven fabric exhibiting high stretch 40% up to 40% and good recovery properties from low loads up to 175 gram per centimeter. Also, this method is used to determine the stretch and growth properties that a garment may be expected to exhibit during use. So the earlier testing is for knitted fabrics and this testing is for woven fabrics. That is the only difference. And next one is D6614 standard test method for stretch properties of textile fabrics. In this test method, a specified load is applied to a fabric specimen using a constant rate of extension tensile tester at a prescribed rate of extension. After holding at the specified load for a predetermined time, the length is measured, the load is removed from the specimen and allowed to relax for a specified time. A small amount of force enough to remove any wrinkles or folds is applied and the specimen length measured. The amount of fabric stretch is calculated from the difference in length prior to the load and under load. So that is about stretch fabrics. Next topic is, so dear students, we have completed fabric stretch properties. Fabric stretch properties. In the book it is not given, but as a good lecturer I will show you what is a stretch property, if at all it is there on the internet, YouTube. Stretch properties of knitted fabrics. Here we have stretch and growth. So you see, I am telling those things that are not available in the textbook also. So I am not a bad lecturer, I am a good lecturer only. Anyway, that is, weight is applied from the bottom. So he is measuring the time interval for which it is applied, the force is applied, the pressure, the weight is applied. And he has measured the fabric length.
Have any questions about our testing machines, operation procedure, or calibration, or any other topic?
He has measured the fabric length.
Today, and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you. He has measured the fabric length before the test and after the test, and the load is applied, and he has measured, that is the difference in length by the original length into 100 is equal to stretch percentage, and the difference in length is known as stretch by elongation or extensibility. And we have one more video, I can show one more video, but I don't want to show because so that's enough. So if I go on showing the videos, nobody cares. I don't want to, people will think that he is showing the videos in the class and he is not telling the class, and they may think otherwise. So but you see, I am telling those things that are not present in the book. These are the good qualities of a lecturer. And
Impressive.
oh, impressive.
Tell us about yourself.
कल बताता हूँ.
3 घंटे पे फाइनल है. चल चल.
कल चलते हैं.
Very nice.
हम सब इनकम टैक्स फाइलिंग कर ही देंगे. तू कब करेगा? कल.
कल कर दिया.
ITR प्रीफिल ऑन क्लियर टैक्स. टैक्स फाइलिंग बिना डेटा एंट्री के इतना आसान कि सब कुछ कल करने वाले भी अभी कर दें.
So what is this? Dear students, you will get jobs in some time.
ASTM D2594,
Wait.
originally published.
Once you get jobs, if you get very high salaries, then you pay the taxes regularly, because government, as a citizen of India, it is your duty, fundamental duty, to pay taxes to the government. You are not paying to the government. Always think that you are paying to India, your motherland India, where you are born. For that country you are paying taxes. Governments sometimes they are good, and governments sometimes they are bad, but think always like this.
Published in 1969, has been used continuously by the U.S. textile industry to measure the stretch and growth properties of knitted fabrics. This method is intended for 2 apparel types: comfort stretch, loose fitting, and form fitting, excluding fabrics for girdles or other high support items. This standard test method requires that 5 specimens from each fabric direction, length and width, be tested. The specimen dimensions are 15.5 by 5 inches. The wale direction specimens will be marked and cut so that the long dimension of the template is parallel to the length direction of the fabric. Similarly, the coarse direction specimens are marked and cut with the long dimension parallel to the width direction of the fabric. After the specimens are cut out, each is folded in half lengthwise, forming a loop when the short edges are sewn together with a 0.5-inch seam. Then, benchmarks of 5 inches are placed on the fabric in a central location on one side of the looped specimen. This marking creates the gauge length of the original distance. The apparatus for performing the stretch and growth measurements is a frame with slots for positioning specimen hangers. The hangers consist of a triangle-shaped upper and lower metal form into which metal rods can be locked into place to hold a specimen. For the stretch measurement, a metal rod is inserted through the looped specimen and secured into the metal hanger form. The specimen is then placed onto the stretch frame, after which another rod and hanger assembly is inserted into the specimen loop. With the hanger assembly positioned so that the sewn seam is at the top of a rod, secure the hanger in the slot on the upper end of the frame. A ruler, graduated to read percent, is attached to the center of the upper middle benchmark. Then, attach a tensiometer to the lower hanger assembly and pull the indicator cycle between 0 and 5 pounds force, comfort stretch, 4 times for a cycle of 4 to 6 seconds. The 5th time, pull the tensiometer to the 5-pound force level and hold for 5 to 10 seconds. Then measure to the nearest 1%. If preferred, a ruler graduated in 1 millimeter increments can be used, but the percent stretch will need to be calculated from the exact distances recorded. If semi-form-fitting fabric was being tested, the tensiometer would be cycled and read at 10 pounds force. 2 length, wale, and 2 width, coarse direction specimens are needed for stretch testing. For growth testing, 3 specimens in each fabric direction are used. A different lower hanger assembly is used for growth testing. The triangle-shaped metal form has a beaded chain that will allow the looped specimen to be locked in an extended position for a fixed period of time. The specimen loop with the sewn seam is placed in the upper hanger assembly. Insert the ruler in the middle of the top benchmark. Hang the specimen on a slot along the supporting frame. Insert the lower hanger assembly and extend the specimen to the 15% stretch point for the length, wale direction specimen, and secure the extension distance by pulling the beaded chain into a lower slot on the frame. For the width direction, coarse specimens, the specimen is extended to the 30% point distance. Load all of the wale and coarse direction specimens for a sample sequentially. After 2 hours, the chain assembly is released and removed from a specimen. After 60 seconds, the percent growth, or if measuring distance, is recorded for growth calculation. Repeat the release at 60-second intervals for the measurement of each subsequent specimen. After 1 hour, measurements are recorded again. If performing growth testing on semi-form-fitting fabric, the extension percentage points to be used are 35 for the wale direction and 60 points for the coarse direction specimens. Sometimes companies prefer to use the term recovery instead of growth. The terms growth and recovery are mathematical reciprocals. That is, 3% growth would be the same as 97% recovery based on the same percentage of stretch. Can a fabric have too much stretch and/or growth? This question can be somewhat difficult to answer, as each knitted fabric construction with or without stretch yarn and different fiber contents may have different percentages of stretch, as performed by ASTM D2594. Fabric processing and garment washing processing can affect the amount of stretch a fabric exhibits. But the significant impact of repeated force that exceeds the fabric's functional stretch capacity will influence the fabric's growth to a point where the fabric will bag, or growth is so great that the garment will not return to a satisfactory distance. We sometimes see this happen on garments at the knee of pants, the elbows of sleeves, loose neckbands, and the seat of pants. So the answer is the one we never like to hear. It depends. For brands and their manufacturing and sourcing partners, stretch and growth properties are managed through engineering the fabric to establish performance specifications. This is sometimes influenced by consumer complaints and returns.
So dear students,
దీనిలో షుగర్ ఉందా?
what the hell is
ఇంకా
this?
దీనిలో డయాబెటీస్ వచ్చిన వెంటనే అందరూ అడుగుతారు, దీనిలో షుగర్ ఉందా? ఇక మీదట నుంచి దీనిలో ఫైబర్ ఉందా అని అడగండి, ఎందుకంటే రీసెర్చ్ ప్రకారం హై ఫైబర్ డయాబెటీస్ ని మేనేజ్ చేయడంలో సహాయపడుతుంది. హార్లిక్స్.
This is the problem with the ads. So anyway, I like the second video. They are telling the truth. What is the truth? It depends. That's what he said, and that's what I understood at the end. You please listen to the video again. I have played you. I have wasted my time already, lot of time on playing the videos, because that is not there in the syllabus. We are supposed to teach what is there in the syllabus. It is not there in the syllabus, but I have shown you the video. So anyway, I'm just making fun. So how much time we have? We have 10 more minutes, I guess. Okay, in the 10 minutes, can we speak? Yes, I will complete one more topic. Bonded and laminated apparel fabrics. So we are talking about bonded and laminated apparel fabrics. ASTM D2724 that we have just seen in the video. For bonded, fused and laminated apparel fabrics defines bonded fabric as. So this is the definition of bonded fabric. A layered fabric structure wherein a face or shell fabric is joined to a backing fabric such as tricut with an adhesive that does not significantly add to the thickness of the combined fabrics. And laminated fabric is a layered fabric structure wherein a face or outer fabric is joined to a continuous sheet material such as polyurethane foam in such a way that the identity of the continuous sheet material is retained. And this in turn but not always is joined on the back with a backing fabric such as tricut. The problems. So he has defined between bonded fabrics and laminated fabrics. So the problems associated with the above fabrics are localized delamination resulting in blisters or bubbles, crack marks, puckering, complete separation of the face and back of the fabric resulting in an aesthetically unacceptable garment. So the problems associated with the above fabric is this. Puckering may be due to differential shrinkage or localized delamination in very small areas. Crack marks are usually the result of combining tight fabric constructions, at least one of which does not have sufficient residual stretch to allow the combined fabrics to be bent in an arc without producing crack marks. Crack marks also occur when the bonded fabrics are allowed to remain in a creased or wrinkled state before a full adhesive cure has taken place. Other causes include use of an excessive adhesive in bonding or excessive foam thickness. Bonded and laminated apparel fabrics. So I want to actually see online because these definitions are not they are good, but I want to find out the difference. What is the difference between bonded apparel fabric and laminated apparel fabric? That he should have given. To test shrinkage, specimen in each direction of the fabric to be tested are benchmarked for 25 cm in length and width, then dry cleaned and are laundered 3 times. Then the specimens are pressed on a flatbed steam press if they were dry cleaned, or pressed with a hand iron if they were laundered. Then the benchmarks are measured and the shrinkage calculated. These specimens are visually evaluated for puckering, delamination, crack marks, or any other surface damage due to dry cleaning or laundering. So, to test the strength of a bond, specimens of size 15 into 7.5 cm in the length direction are taken. Then the 2 layers of the fabric along 7.5 cm are separated approximately 2.5 cm. The separated layers are subsequently held in the testing machine jaws and separated for 10 cm length at the rate of 30.5 plus or minus 1.2 cm per minute. The bond strength is the average of the 5 highest and 5 lowest peak loads of resistance per inch of width of the specimen. A bond strength test can be done on original dry cleaned or laundered specimens to evaluate effect of dry cleaning or laundering on bond strength. There is no performance specifications for bond strength. It is customary to take at least 3 to 5 specimens to test, and the final results are expressed as the average of the test results of these specimens. So sometimes I get angry because of the definitions. The authors are sometimes not clear what they are talking about. Like me, if I write a book, I will also be scolded by somebody else. So that's why I don't write a book. Neither do I have that much knowledge, nor do I have interest. What happened? Internet is suffering. Where are you, internet? So we have only 2-3 minutes. At least I should be able to explain something. So this is not opening. So bonded and laminated apparel fabrics I have studied carefully for you, and you can listen to it 1 or 2 times so that you will understand what it is. And because of our time is running, I am not able to why the internet is slow. Sometimes it is slow. So I will recapitulate what we have studied. So we have studied about fabric stretch properties today, and what are fabric stretch properties? There is power stretch and there is comfort stretch, and power stretch is a high stretch and then it will recover, whereas comfort stretch it will not recover. Power stretch means there is quick recovery. Comfort stretch, there is no recovery. Fabric growth, there is no recovery. Fabric recovery means it is there. Recovery means extensibility and then it will recover. Stretch properties are like that. So fabric growth is a new term coined, and for me it is new. And fabric growth is that we have seen in the test on the video, where fabric growth is the growth after growing. The fabric will not revert back to its original shape, and if it reverts back, then it is not growth. So fabric growth is measured at various intervals of time. What is various intervals of time? For after 1 hour, after 2 hours, after 3 hours, after 4 hours. And fabric elasticity, fabric extensibility is also tested like that. So this is about fabric growth, fabric stretch properties. So stretch and elongation are also related. The author never talked about elongation. So these are the facts I am telling you. You have to you are the students and you have to study and exercise your knowledge and intelligence to make from what we are saying, author or lecturer or books or no books or whatever it is. So you have to understand that. So that is about fabric growth and fabric stretch properties. And I have shown you ASTM D2724 standard test method for fabric stretch properties. That is not available in the syllabus book, in the textbook also. I have shown you the book, I have shown you the video. So that is the standard test method. So in the next class we will study about, again zippers is coming. I don't know why, what is this zippers, and zippers, elastic waistbands, yarn strength and elongation. So what is the difference? I am quoting, I am telling, I am questioning you right now. I am giving one question. What is the difference between stretch and elongation? And that is your assignment. So Ram Gopal Verma is talking something. Let us forget about that. So that's all for today's class. Not today's class, I mean for this class. 7:37.